Hello YouTube, Al here, and this week we're going to be taking a look at my first ever guitar effects pedal, the MXR Dime Distortion. So I bought this in about 2010, 2011, I was about 17, 18, something like that. I was doing my A-levels, I was really into Pantera, and I saved up loads of money for ages to buy this. I think it was about 170 quid new, something like that. I got the Cantrell wah, which I've sold, but I used to have a Cantrell Crybaby wah. That was about the same time and about the same sort of price. See, it takes an 18 volt input. Most pedals are 9, but this is an 18 one. So obviously it requires more power. I suppose it's quite a high gain pedal. You've got a volume control here, which is how loud the pedal is. You'll be wanting to balance that with the gain. You've got a bass, middle and treble controls. I believe they're push or cuts rather than just filters. I don't know. I have an inkling it is. I'm not quite clued up on electronics yet. I'm trying to learn. So you've got a full EQ section anyway, and you've got the little button here, which basically is a mid scoop button, but when you scoop the mids, it takes away from your volume. So what this does is when you push it in, it gives it a volume boost as well as taking the mids away. So that's it's not like a tappable. If it was a different button and I could tap that for a little boost, that would be more helpful. I've always thought that, but it's a little button there whether you want to use it or not. And obviously you've got the gain here, which is how much gain you get. So you saw me clean out the pots on this. They're still a little bit coughing, but they're a lot better than they were. To be honest, this has been sitting in my drawer for ages because I find it very harsh and I find it quite difficult to use. But anyway, I've cleaned that out. I've had a little bit of a play for 5 minutes to check that it works. These are the settings I've got here that I find are the ones that tickle my pickle. We'll go through my rig in a second because obviously your mileage will vary. So that's the spec of this little thing. Let's plug it in. Okay, so the guitar I'm using is my Epiphone Les Paul. It's a 2003 Korean one. It's got a real maple cap. Ooh, ain't she pretty? Iron gear pickups, aluminium, blah blah blah. I've done loads of mods to this. Yeah, go and check it out in other videos. It's a Les Paul. When it's in tune, sorry. It's a Les Paul, and it do what it do. So the amp I'm using is a custom double barrel. You can't quite see it. It's down there. It's a 2x12 solid state 30 watt kind of Fendery voice thing. Anyway, here's a clean sound. It was in tune when I bought it. You see my settings, everything's pretty much at noon, but I've taken the treble out of it and the mids are about halfway, so here we go. Ooh. Right, I'll just EQs, get the levels right first. That bass, so it's about 2 o'clock. So it still sounds very harsh. harsh. I've got a bit of spring reverb that's giving me a bit of the cough on the end. Turn that down actually. A bit less. There we go. It's still very harsh sounding, brittle. So I'm going to try putting the bass up a little bit. I'm trying to even out the EQ so it's less scooped and more dynamic, full sounding a bit. I always play with the mid and I'll just see what that does. So sounds very boxy now. I'll turn it back down. All treble. That's the mid on 11, the bass is about 1 o'clock and the treble was just 11 o'clock. So I'm going to set everything at 12. Just making the point that I've really touched very little on this and it does a lot. If I crank the gain, does it become more trebly or less? Needs a bit of a setup, to be honest. Have another video. So I'm going to turn the treble down a little bit from 12 o'clock to about 11. Oh! So turn the bass up. The bass has gone from 12 to 12 and a half, 1 o'clock ish. See, that sounds a lot more full. Turn the reverb off. It's really annoying me. It sounds a lot fuller already. It's very trebly, but you can hear the dynamics now. Now I'll try raising the mids a little bit, just past 12. trying to fill it out and make it a bit more overdrive-ish, you know. I'm just going to fiddle with the mid knob. So just scoop it one side and another. Just try and find the right biting point. So the mid being about 11 o'clock, i.e. lower, seems to make it sound more open, whereas if you boost it, it gets boxy quickly, which is weird from a pedal that's meant to be kind of scooped, kind of that sort of, you know, smiley face sort of EQ shape. So it's meant to be boosting the trebles and the bass more than the mids. That fizzy high end, I just want to nip that off a little bit. So I'm going to nip the treble down to about 10 or 11 o'clock. I've got a bad cable somewhere. Still hear the fizziness, but it's a lot more open, a lot more girthy, you know, sort of. You don't get a lot of clarity from single notes. I'll try and clean it up. Treble down further. Mid back up to 12, so the treble's now around about 9 or 10 o'clock. It's definitely got that mid-focus sort of throaty thing. Kind of like the SD1, but that's more of a lower mids thing. This is more of an upper mids thing, and it's very saturated with it, very electric. Van Halen, but well, this kind of sounds Van Halen-y, but it's not. Sweep of each EQ now. Let's start with the treble. So from 12 o'clock, which is a little bit harder than I had it before, I'm going to go warm dark and warm white and just bright. And do the same with the mids and bass, boost, bass, words. Blah. So let's start with the treble. Back to 12, back to 11. It's got to be in the big chords. That's where you really feel where the guitar handles the whole frequency of notes. I mean, the mids. about 12. And a little bit past, like tiny bit past 12. Now the bass. So from, that was on about 2 o'clock, so now we're back to 12 o'clock. Whoomp, whoomp, dark light. Back to about 2. So let's do the gain. That's the very last thing. Obviously this is balancing with the volume control. It's going to go lowest to highest. So. You get that tactile spark in there. Getting back to 12 o'clock. Now the gain up to the brighter side, or sorry, more gain side. Full gain. Helps the pinch harmonics come through. I'm a bit out of practice. Do you know what, for fun, we're on full game, let's do the scoop button now. So this is without. And now, yeah. You can tell there's a lot of bass coming through. It sounds more like Dime.bad. there you go, that was me revisiting my first ever guitar pedal, the MXR Dime Distortion. I honestly didn't think I was going to like this. I really didn't, because it can sound very, very small very easily. I mean, if you've got a scooped guitar sound for one thing, it can quite easily get lost in a mix. Like Dimebag was the only guitar player. If there was two, you really wouldn't have heard him. It's a very extreme sound that this pedal is really kind of built around. I mean, let's make no bones about it. If you want to be Dimebag, you buy one of these, and you buy a cheap DNML, and you buy a Dimebucker, you know, and you buy the green Tortex point at 8 picks. We all did it. I did it. We all did it. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. But I think this pedal does do a lot more than that. Surprisingly, I've always found this pedal to be quite, I think harsh is the right word. It's because the gain is so harsh, it can sound quite boxy. Again, it's made to be quite scooped sounding, and I find that when you push the mids in, if you do it too much, the mids are sort of out there on their own, and the whole thing doesn't feel like it hangs together. So surprisingly, the best way to get a good sound out of this pedal, despite it being kind of mid-scooped, isn't to have that much mid. You can see it's just below halfway. And it's about balancing the EQs. Do it with your ears, not with your eyes. Balance it so it kind of feels more open. I found the gain actually was quite a decent control. I mean, quite a reactive control. When I turned the gain up, it didn't feel like it was too much or overbearing. I mean, I used to use this into a dirty channel level amplifier, my custom, funnily enough. So there was a lot of gain going on. I really bought this because I didn't know much about pedals, and I thought, well, sod it. If it's got Dimebag on it, I love Dimebag. It's not going to be crap. And MXR, well, I've heard of them. I saw the video with Brian. It looked amazing, and it's got an EQ section, which does a lot. That's the next thing. The controls on this, despite it being set up really to do the Dimebag thing, I was surprised as to how much the controls actually affect the sound. And you can get it to sound really scooped or really boxy, or you can get it to sound pretty open, but I can't find much scope within that open sound. Now again, this is just what I've been doing with this on this pedal. So I mean, what guitar you're using, what amp you're using, what other pedals you might be using, what room you're in, what speaker cabinet you've got. All that's going to be affecting how you want to dial it in. Say, you know, if my amp is 90% of the way there of your amplifier, that extra 10% is going to make a big difference, especially when you get distortion involved and overdrives and things that really accentuate the differences between the pedals and other pieces of gear. So yeah, the controls are really not quite twitchy, but they do a lot. Even within like between 11 and 2 o'clock, they do a lot. So it's a surprisingly versatile pedal. I do want to go into some cons with this. Again, being 18 volts, it's really annoying that you might not be able to fit this on your pedal board with certain power supplies. Most power supplies will do 9 volts DC, probably either 5 or 8 outputs or whatever, because that's what most pedals are. They're all 9 volt DC. This one is 18, which is really annoying. I mean, the power supply I use is the Donner ISO 8, and it's got a couple of outputs that are switchable from 9 either to 12 and the other ones to 18, which is obviously what I'm running this off. So it's not that much of a problem depending on what you've got, but it's something to bear in mind. If you've got a spare slot and you've got only a power supply that does 9 volts, no, you're going to need a separate cable for this, which is not the end of the world, but it really is annoying live to have an extra cable. It really is, especially when it's so thin. It came with it, but it was so thin, I'm worried it's going to break. It hasn't broken in 8 years, you know, to its credit, but I'm still worried it's going to break, so yeah. So let's go into the sound. This is a distortion pedal. It definitely does have that kind of harsh, hard sound that a distortion has, kind of like a rat pedal. It feels more like a solo thing rather than a rhythm thing, personally. I prefer the more open, dynamic, round sound that you get from overdrives, as you've been seeing with the overdrives I've been demoing. That's the sort of thing I tried to go for. I really think this adds the fizz and the saturation. It's very tactile and it feels very like you're plugging a fork into an electric socket. It's great. But I think for me, it's probably more of a solo thing than a rhythm thing. It can do the rhythm thing. If you want to do Van Halen with distortion pedals and that sort of stuff, definitely I think this would probably get you in the right sort of ballpark. But personally, I would want to use this for a solo boost, and it sounds really cool. It really makes the notes sing. It's like the SD1 sort of directness of sound. Sort of, you are hearing this, and you can just feel it relentlessly pushing. It's great. It's very saturated, but again, it's not too much. It's not ridiculous. So there you have it. That's my return look at my first guitar pedal, which, to be honest, has sat in a drawer for like at least 2 years. To be honest, at least 2 years, maybe 3. Yeah, it does a lot more than, to be honest, I expected it to do. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Leave any questions down in the comments. Have you got one of these? How do you use it? How do you like it? Oh, one more thing is I wouldn't really use the mid scoop button. It sounds great. It boosts the mids and that, bass, sorry, and treble. But it's just I've no use for it. But it's a good feature to have, and I love that it boosts the volume back up. That is a helpful thing to help you cut through live. But anyway, let me know what you think. Comments down in the questions down in the comments. What am I saying? I've gone completely yampy. It's fine. Anyway, my name is Al. This has been a review of the MXR Dime Distortion. Like, subscribe, all that bollocks. Until then, I'll see you next week. So, bye.
Bye!